Do you feel comfortable talking about do you feel comfortable talking about how things make you feel, your emotions? I said it. Do you feel comfortable that, let's say you had a panic attack, or if you felt overwhelmed, that you'd have a safe place to go and talk about that, even just the possibility or the feeling of being overwhelmed? Do you feel like you have a safe place that you can have discussions like this? What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Winner's Circle. I'm DrSean, the author of Discover Choice and The Search for Wellness. It's the idea that if we are growing stronger in our power of choice, that we can enhance our mindset and everything else in life will improve. We like to have these conversations. If this resonates with you, if you've asked questions like this before, especially about being able to talk and be heard, drop a heart in the chat box. If you have developed skills and if you have some awareness, being able to talk to people and listen to people, some communication skills, good for you. Drop a fire emoji in the chat box. I've had this come up, and I've been curious about this for many years. A friend of mine, Frank Kralik, we were riding around in South Florida back in the day, in medical school, first year perhaps, and I asked Frank. Frank turns out to be one of these kinds of guys, and he has been over 30 years. Frank, I said, hey, do you ever notice that guys don't really talk about their emotional health? And we kind of chuckled and saying, this is never going to happen. But since that time, so many other things have happened. And we've talked about how men have, let's say, toxic masculinity, an idea that, has come up over the past couple of years. We've talked about how men don't communicate and how men behave and misbehave and how men vote. But we really haven't talked about what is underlying all of that, and that is our emotional health. I don't think we feel comfortable calling it what it is. Maybe sometimes we feel comfortable calling it mental health, and we really don't talk about men's mental health until somebody acts out. And so why don't we have that discussion now? I think there's some inherent challenges in talking about emotional health for men, because we generally have an idea that women are emotional beings, but men not so much. I mean, as a society, really. Not just men have this idea about ourselves, but I think that's an idea that society holds, that women are more emotional. Is that actually true? Or is it that women express their emotions in a different way? Well, there are some other challenges also to men being able to, let's say, I don't want to say being able, but men feeling comfortable talking about their emotional needs. And one, aside from not knowing that we have emotional needs, another is we feel that we are providers. And so feeling like we are providers kind of goes against asking for somebody to give us something like emotional attention. Kind of interesting, right? What happens with our emotional needs, though? Another challenge is if there's a general understanding that women have emotional needs but men don't, what happens when we start to talk about our emotional needs somewhat awkwardly, when we make ourselves more vulnerable and then start to raise these questions? Well, they're not expected many times, and so we get a reaction that is not one that feels conducive to our sharing our concerns, and then we feel rejected sometimes, and then we feel let down other times, and then we will shut down, and we will not be coming back sharing our emotional needs. And then if somebody was saying that men don't communicate, I don't know what's wrong with men these days, they don't communicate, we're going to be communicating a lot less in the future if we feel rejected and if we feel that we are getting shut down, if we don't feel that there is a safe place. Now, strangely enough, guys do tend to understand other guys in some ways. Now, we're not going to go to each other and say, hey, I have some emotional needs, but we might say, hey, I want to get your idea, I want to run something by you. Maybe it's a particular concept, maybe it's an idea, But inherent in that concept and idea, problem solving, is how we feel about it, and then we will sometimes be able to talk about it. However, it's probably going to be just one dude. It won't be a bunch of dudes. We won't be hanging out on a couch eating cake and chocolate and all that kind of stuff. I'm not making fun. I actually adore how ladies are communal just by nature. It's probably something that, we miss out on, having that kind of outlet. So we have to have conversations like this and be able to have them in a way that helps us to solve problems, basically. So let's talk about it. I got some recommendations for you going forward. The first recommendation is to let's have a conversation like the one we're having right now. Have it in your own spaces. You have a son in your life, you have a boyfriend in your life, your husband. Have a conversation. Make sure you have a safe place, but have the conversation just for the sake of having a conversation. Ask the question, do you feel comfortable? Do you feel that there is a place that you can share your emotional needs? And don't say another word after that. I mean, you might get asked for clarity because nobody is expecting that question, but it's a question that we really need to answer. Ask that question. Now, the second recommendation I would like to make is to withhold judgment energy. And when I say judgment energy, I mean don't make any posture, don't say anything judgmental, and also just hang out for the answer. Nothing judgmental, because if we feel that judgment coming down, we're going to shut down, and the likelihood we're coming back anytime soon, we're just going to say, hey, look, I tried to talk and it's just not happening. Now, the third recommendation I'd like to make is to listen. Just listen, but listen with the idea, with the intention of understanding to the extent that you could paraphrase and be able to discuss the concern. Ask clarifying questions to understand what the concerns are, but don't necessarily try to solve the problems. Most of us don't want somebody coming and solving our problems. It's helpful if a person can, let's say, ask questions that make us aware that we have what it takes, that there are some options, that there are choices. Don't tell us we don't have any choice. I'm not going to keep the conversation going the way we want, but if we have some ideas, if we're offered ideas of choice, options at some point, but mostly just listen. There's a lot of therapy, there's a lot of benefit to just being heard, just being understood, just being able to get something off of our chest, just being able to get it in the air, on the table. That is huge, actually. I hope that this helps you winning today and throughout the week. If this resonates with you, drop a heart emoji in there, and keep your eyes open for more discussions like this in the Winner Circle. Thank you so much for your contributions. Thank you for your encouragement that you've been leaving in the comment section. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining in the Winner Circle. Take care, guys. Keep winning.